I've wanted to have you on the show for a long time. And, you know, our last conversation,
Yeah.
you know, in New York when we were on set, you know, I just knew it. I just knew it. And I don't know. It's like you came in the kitchen. We were both like, yeah, I'm nervous. You're like, you're nervous. Talk to me about like where you think that comes from. Like
Yeah.
because I guess, and look, man, I'm a rambling ass mother. That's another big difference between you and me. You get right to the point, like the way we fight for the writing.
Yeah.
I like it, like take the weight of the world, and I'm like so upset, and I like fight over every little thing. And you're like very streamlined, and you just like say the one thing, and it's always gonna be all right. With me, I feel like it's always like doom and gloom, and like we gotta fight these mother. But like we are very similar, but we're totally
Our
unlike at the
approaches.
same
Yeah.
time. And I think it's about this like fragility and strength at the same time.
Yeah.
And talk to me a little bit about that fragility and strength. within you.
Fragility and strength.
Yeah.
Holy. I don't have a lot of self-confidence, I think. And so when I look at how you approach the work and changes and the way you feel about the work, I honestly don't know how. I couldn't do it that way. It would be too scary. And I don't like it's an inhibitor, I think, actually in my work. I genuinely in my gut don't understand how people approach the world with confidence. Every single one of my decisions is framed by fear in some capacity. And that's rough because a lot of people talk about like, you know, fear is the one thing that you can't let, you know, fear rule your life. But I'm like, I don't know any other way to live. My identity is rooted in fear and anxiety. And I've come a long way. I used to have anxiety attacks all of the time and really held myself back a lot. And I think I am light years ahead of where I started. But, you know, we talked about bullying and what that experience can do to you, particularly because it happens at that foundational age where you are literally developing a sense of yourself. And at that age, if someone tells you that you are unworthy or ugly or not wanted, that defines you for the rest of your life, you know, for better and for worse. And so, yeah, having been through that at that age, and I get nervous to talk about it. Like, I think there's some of the nerves is I knew that was something that you wanted to talk about. And I don't dislike talking about it, but there is a sense of like, even with you guys, when I shared it with you, the first response is always, no, who would ever bully you? Like, who couldn't like you? And I get that comes from like this sense of like love and support, but it puts me in a position of having to defend myself.
How so?
Of having to prove that I was, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would anyone bully you? Now I have to explain why.
Yeah.
You know? And so I get nervous about that. There's an immediate dismissiveness of like, well, if you're doing well in your life now and things seem good or that seems hard to believe, then prove it. And the fact is that it is an enormously identifying part of my life and feeling like, oh God, what if someone dismisses that or doesn't think that it's valid, and all of that stemming from that experience, right? I was taught at that age to fear how people feel about me, and so that continues to persist.
That one thing I also think we're very much alike is I feel like this thing, you know, like very much saved both of us, and we owe a lot to it. And I think that what comes with that too is this hunger that never goes away. And this fear that it could be taken away, because what will we do without it? I don't know. How would you describe that kind of within yourself? What's your relationship with sort of hunger and drive?
I'm a show your work person, right? Even if the result is really good and can stand on its own, there's a part of me that goes, it's not earned. It's not good unless you can prove that you've earned it or that you can prove that you did the work to get it.
What do you mean?
Like talent is a weird thing, right? Because talent can just be innate. You can just be a charismatic, talented person and be a fantastic actor and never study, never do any kind of homework, never have a process, right? That's very hard for me to get my fingers around. So like I have just like composition notebooks for days of just notes that I took for acting school, for different roles that I've had, theater, film, TV, even just things I worked on for auditions, because I have to show my work, that there's something wrong in getting something without proving that you've.
And who are you showing that to?
No one.
Well, that's the thing, because
just if someone were to ask,
I know these motherfuckers, like especially these days with like all the method acting and everything, who are constantly like advertising to the world about like, hey, well, I just got out of, I just like, was living in a internment camp, and I, you know what I mean? And it's like, and I think that like those are the things that like, you can, I don't know, you can sniff out a mile away.
Yeah.
I've never seen you be showy in that way at all.
No, I mean, I love talking process. I mean, and part of it is because I'm personal and private and I don't share a lot of my life. I do love talking about art and process and how we do these things in character. Sure. I do find that fascinating pretty endlessly. But I also at a certain point realized I don't actually have to do that.
Yeah.
For me to do my work well, I don't have to write it down.
Yeah.
I can just have it in my head. And so that was like a shift at a certain point. So ambition and drive, like I would never describe myself as ambitious or even driven. I think I'm committed, maybe, right? Like I love this stuff. I'm obsessed with this stuff. But the things that are required to be successful in this business at that kind of level, I don't know that I'm capable of.
What are those things?
Well, the social parts. Like my brother does sound editing and post-production, and we talk a lot about like what gets you jobs. And I think a lot of it is like, are you a fun hang? I don't think I'm a very fun hang. I'm just not, I think unless you play board games or knit or, I'm not a really fun hang. At least not in the like.
But like, or you could look at that as like you are like absolutely allergic to pretension and like you're not like you sort of I don't know, Deb. I feel like you just from what I've seen, like you really honor this, and you honor the work, and you really want it not to be good because you think like, no, this is my shot, kid, and like this will. A director will see this, and then like there's no part of you that's like that. It's like there's a faithful holiness, like it's sacred to you.
Agreed, absolutely. But I think the unfortunate reality of this business is that the former is true, right? Like there's a certain part of of this business that requires a little bit of not selling out, but a little bit of superficiality and a little bit of playing the game. And if you are purely kind of driven by hard work and good work, putting out good work, it's not enough. It isn't enough. And that's okay, right? Like,
but enough for what?
Enough to be a headliner, enough to like be the lead of a show or something like that. Like that would be a dream and ambition of mine. And that's been harder to make happen than I thought it would be in my kind of like, you prove yourself here and you prove yourself here and you prove yourself here, and it should sort of lead to something, right? And it just doesn't work that way.
Sure.
So that was a kind of an eye opener for me, I think. But I'm still trying, I just have to try in my way, which is the longer route.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, this thing is definitely not, solely a meritocracy. I mean, that is for sure. Exactly. There's like plenty of like super talented people who never get a shot and get stepped on over and over and over again. I just would like, I guess I would push back and argue that like the people that are sort of only sort of kind of like career focused or do everything because it's some sort of strategic means to an end, there's a hollowness to their work which will eventually kind of catch up with them. And I think that's kind of across the board. And I don't know, I think the dream is like really just finding something you just like absolutely love to do and figure out a way to be able to do it. I think what comes with that though is that like, it's very scary that could get taken away. And I do, I think that's, I think that really exists in both of us. And I think that we both really fight to make every little tiny thing as good as it possibly can be. I think I do it in a super loud and brash way. And I think maybe like I like to, and I think you're just like, whoa, like easy there, killer. Like we can just do this. Like we have it all here between us.
I mean, not to bring sexism into it too much. I can't bring it loudly in that way. I will get fired if I bring it loudly in some capacities, right?
Yeah.
I feel that very strongly.
Yeah.
The looks that I get sometimes when I push too hard, or even just the ignoring.
Give me an example about that. Like, give me an example of that.
I mean,
because I feel like everybody would do whatever I feel like on the sets I've been on, people will do whatever the say.
No, or part of the reason why maybe that is because I have had to be very tactful and state things and really, oh, that's a great idea. What if also, it's this kind of like very supportive, open, general, like when I see you guys go, no, that's not good. Make it better. Or here's what is better. And that's what I'm going to do. Again, I just have this, I just know that would be greeted with, we don't have to work with you.
Yeah. So
there's a little bit of, but that's putting too fine a point on it, because it's not to say that I wouldn't do it my way, even if that barrier wasn't there.
Right.
There is something, deeper in my character that asks of me to do it tactfully and quietly and gently.
For sure.
I like that about myself also. I think there's something in that too, that I don't really want to lose that. I like being the kind of person that is open-minded and assumes the best in people. So yeah, that comes into it too with the anxiety and all of that too. There's a part of me that's like, oh man, wouldn't it be awesome to be so confident that I could just, be like, screw you, do what I say. But then I go, but who is that?